Alright, so if you have watched more of my tutorials, you already know what I'm gonna say, but now that we have the R&D finished, we're gonna move this into a proper folder structure to continue working. So if you haven't seen my thing on my website here, I have a, you can go to tutorials, and there's a VFX folder structure thing here. So I have a specific folder structure that I always work in with some presets and stuff. So if you haven't checked that out, check this out now. All of these presets and folders and pipeline tools will be included in the downloads for this tutorial as well. But just so you know that it's how we're gonna set it up. So yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab this thing that we have here. So I have this project already set up here. So I've called it aggregation tutorial. Or whatever it's called now that it's online, or tend to sometimes change names later. Yeah, so let's just, I already saved the file there, so I'm just gonna open it. So that's just the thing that we did before. Then I'm gonna go into this thing here, an aggregation. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna paste the root location in here. I'm gonna change these forward slashes. Should really automate this at some point, but it's a thing that you only do once every project. So aggregation tutorial, I guess shot 01, doesn't really matter. Right, so now that's configured. So now we can do some other stuff. So maybe just to be sort of clean, let's maybe put this all in a you know what, let's put it in a network box here. Let's not put it in subnetwork. Let's call this R&D. R&D. Right, and now let's do our actual sort of scene. So let's copy our dops. Let's call this RBD self-assembly, or just call it, I guess, simulation. Probably makes more sense. All right, so this is going to be your simulation. Let's color code it. You can see it's going to error because we have this thing. We need to properly also set our project. Just going to set it to the hip location. Let's just already save this out, so we have our proper cache. All right, so now we're back with our self-assembly thing. So that's already looking pretty okay. Let's maybe already set up our some nodes that we know that we're going to use. Let's already make some render nodes. R&DR boxes or something. Let's grab the out here. Let's object merge this in. Because we already know that we're gonna need that later, right? Because that's always what I use. So let's just already have that. Just good to go. So yeah, we already have this sort of explosive thing. Probably what we want to do is we want to first maybe check, or we can maybe already do is, yeah, let's already do the environment. So we have this environment with all these boxes. So there's going to be this thing. So let's already make this environment so we can already like do our sort of ridges itself. So because they're gonna need to, well, to be able to collide, right? So in this environment is quite simple to set up. I think you can probably already imagine what it's going to be. It's going to be a grid with boxes copied on it. Pretty simple. But let's do it anyway. So let's call it, let's make a grid here. Let's make it 30 by 30 or something. Let's maybe already make a camera. So we have something that we can sort of already judge our horizon. And let's already maybe add our camera animation. Or at least to some extent. minus $t times 12. So we know that we're not. All right, we can probably, let's make it as a circle instead. So we have a little bit less wasted space. Right, so that's looking pretty good. What I want to do is I want to scatter some points on here. Let's turn off relax iterations. Let's attribute randomize some stuff. So I want to randomize the p-scale, 1 dimension, between 0.1 and 1. Let's call this, I guess, p-scale. So we have to attribute randomize. Let's do it orient. Let's make it 4, because again, that's a quaternion. And let's do copy to point. Let's do a box. And you can see we already have some nice boxes here. So we have a look here. So could maybe make them a little bit smaller. And what we want to maybe do is, what I always like to do is to sort of add some additional randomness by first maybe scatter a little bit more boxes. Spec them. Let's do if, let's do float r equals random based on the point number. If r is greater than 995, then p-scale times equals 3. Right. Probably need to. Let's do a random seed here, maybe, or not really. Let's, like, if you. So what this is doing is it's grabbing a couple of points and it's making them a lot bigger, as you can see. So there's like a couple that are going to get a lot bigger. So that's looking pretty cool. All right, so let's grab this and let's put this in as a collision. Let's maybe grab these names. All right. Let's maybe just back it like this. Let's just do the names here. All right. Yeah, let's put this in our DOP network. So yeah, what we could just do is go in there. Let's subpath and object path geo. And let's enable it. All right. Right, so this already works quite well. Let's just have a look at what this looks like if we cache this out. Probably want some more pieces on our ground, but it's already exploding before it completely self-assembles. So probably also what I want to do here is maybe I want to add some additional noise. So these things are being blown around a little bit more, and probably I want to, on this object, also want to really reduce the friction. I don't want them to get stuck as much. Right, yeah, this seems to work quite well. Probably what we also already want to do is hand animate our rotation here. so that it sort of loops, because we want a loopable animation, right? So let's keyframe this and let's make it 390 should be looped completely. So if we go out of our camera. Yeah, so 390 is completely looped, so like that. Now let's make it linear keyframes because we don't want any easing. If you want to change this behavior by default, by the way, you can go to Preferences and Miscellaneous, I think, or where was it? I always forget where it is. There's it's somewhere in here. Animation. You can put it to linear. I should probably just keep it like that because I always get annoyed. I always move it back and forth because sometimes it's just easier to have it normal. Anyway, let's do the same with our cam. Let's turn this off. So start at 0 and then go to put it to 359 or something at the end. Yeah, now it should be linear from the start. So now if we go into this thing, should have a, yeah, we have a loopable animation. That's nice. Let's see if this actually now also still assembles, because this is something I spent a lot of time on my original thing to try to get something that sort of would also loop nicely and assemble in time. Actually, it looks like it does just that. Could probably play around with these values a little bit here. Like, let's change the distance function to be a little bit different. Let's play. And perfect. All right. Maybe by the way, we want this to be even, change the mix function even 09. Let's change the pop attracts to, I want it to take a little bit longer. So it's, we could also retime it, by the way. Like, we don't necessarily have to rely on this, but yeah, right, that's looking pretty good. So let's go with what we have here. So, all right, so probably want some more boxes on the ground still. I'm gonna add a little bit more boxes. More boxes, so many boxes. All right, let's do maybe something like this. Let's just see if it still works. Probably want to increase the explosive force a little bit as well. Again, you can just keep playing with this. I'm not gonna do it too much. I just want something that looks decently nice for the tutorial. Yeah, all right, looks pretty good. I mean, the last one's probably a little bit delayed too much, but I guess maybe if we just increase the time scale a little bit here, we could already solve that. Let's see if that's the case. And it doesn't mean the simulation is really fast, so it's all not really a big deal. All right. Let's just keep it the way that it was. And let's just slightly increase the mix value again. And then it should, I think, all be solved. All right, perfect. Let's keep it like this. I like it. All right, so we have this thing. Probably what we want to do, let's call this ground pieces. Or could even call them RNDR ground boxes. Let's make them, because we're going to render those as well. So yeah, we have that stuff going on. It's another thing that you probably want to do for stability is in these render boxes, probably want to cache this out. I know that we already had it cached out, but chops are notoriously unstable. At least like it, Houdini would just sometimes crash when it starts to recalculate these chops. So I probably want to do that. Maybe also just let's delete a lot of redundant attributes that we don't really need here. So I guess delete everything except for velocity. We do want to keep, do we have sample attribute? Where is it? Oh, it's called dist. And what else do we want? I think that's probably all we need. So that's just gonna be a little bit cleaner. Doesn't really save a lot of stuff, but all right, let's call this wiggly boxes and just save them out. Really fast, load from disk, and do it like that. Let's make a let's do our ground plane as well, because we want our, let's do a circle. Okay, this will just object merge, I guess, our circle in that we copied on. Probably need to remesh that to be polygons because we want to render it later. Let's turn off this stuff. Right, so now we have sort of a our basic thing. I guess we could flipbook this if we want, just see how it sort of loops. Yeah, from there we can do some other additional stuff. Like what we want to do is like we want to do these sort of light orby things. It's not something you might additionally first notice if you just watch this, but I thought it added a lot. I just thought it looked really cool to sort of have these light pieces be inside of these boxes. So I figured that was pretty cool. Alright, so let's play this. Right, so yeah, that's pretty cool. One thing that probably we also want to do still is, by the way, before we do any of this stuff, so after this channel, before we catch it out, what we want to do is we want to scale these down a little bit, because we do want to look through them a little bit. I have the same here. You can see you can look through these things a little bit. Let's do a... Oh, and by the way, maybe something else we also want to do is maybe let me just bevel our boxes a little bit, if I'm honest. It's just going to look better when we sort of subdivide them. So let's just add that in already. So bevel them a little bit here. And another thing that we probably need to do is add some rest positions on here, because we're going to do triplanar mapping later. Triplanar mapping will use a rest position, so we don't get floating noises. So yeah, something to keep in mind. So let's just run our sim again. It will probably look slightly different now because we have this extra geometry, but hopefully it'll all still come together in a proper time. You can see it's still really fast. Right, still works. Now let's do the primitive swap here. Let's do transformation. And this is just super useful to just easy to be able to scale this stuff down if it's pract primitives. You could do it differently, but this is just a easy way to do it, I found. Right, so now we have a little bit of a gap between these things. And I guess now let's save this cache out again. Right, super fast, perfect. Right, so we have that stuff. Now, what else do we need? Well, yeah, we need to add these nice Orbi little things, which are quite simple to do actually, but we do need to do them.